right, everybody, welcome to Crowns and Crows, a Crowfall podcast. No cold open today, but we got a special guest, as Valor was alluding to. It's Itziz. I'm just going to say Ziz because it's too many syllables for the rest of the show. As you might know, he is a caster and runs the Veilcast, which is a Camelot Unchained podcast. And I think Valor had a great idea, and he set all this up. And I think we're going to smash two worlds together with the Camelot Unchained and the Crowfall people. And we're going to talk about the differences and how production is going. And I think we have enough topics for the next hour to kind of hash over everything.
Running through those
and let's go with the rundown here real quick. We got about another 15K from last week. We got a couple art updates that I don't think we're going to mention today. We're going to tackle them a little bit, at least next week, I think. I think there's actually some good stuff in the castle fly-through, because I have a couple ideas and thoughts on the architecture of the castle, which I thought was pretty cool. So we're going to go over that and how it actually goes into gameplay and defending and stuff like that. Not like I really love castles, herp derp, anything like that. And as you can notice, we have a temporary new overlay this week. Testing a couple things out, maybe redesigned for Season 3, which I hope starts, what was it, August, guys?
End of summer.
Maybe?
End of summer.
We'll find out then.
What does end of summer mean to people in Austin? Is that like October?
I don't know. Ask me in Hawaii.
January.
You have nothing but summer, right?
Probably November.
All right. Well, but let's get rolling. I don't think there's we went through all the introductions. Says, do you have anything you want to say at the top of the show before we start yelling at each other?
Sorry, start yelling. Well, Thank you, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Like you said, I do a Camelot Unchained vodcast, just like you guys. Been following it since the Kickstarter. It was the first game I kickstarted, and Crowfall is the second one. So I'm actually a backer of both games, and hopefully I can give you guys some counterpoints to what Camelot Unchained's doing, just to kind of stir up some conversation here. So,
excellent. Well, no, we appreciate you having on. I have to fix the cameras, as Milt points out in chat there. See, look at that. Mid-game. No one can see what I was actually doing, other than the people there.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You should have said something.
No, I mean, I wasn't paying attention.
Valor, I gave you pre-show shots and everything.
This was what I was expecting. There's no way I had know where you were going to put those videos, but that was one mistake. You know what?
So who was
we
me?
Can handle it.
You and me were mixed up.
You and Dragon.
We were swapped.
You wanted to be me.
I did. I did. Everybody on Slack was like, "I love lakes. I wanted a taste of it."
15
small jockstrap that you keep.
15 seconds of fame
to everybody out there.
Oh man,
it's lovely. It's lovely. All right, well let's kind of start at the top, and everybody here, we know what Crowfall is all about, and maybe not everybody knows what Camelot Unchained is. So Zitz, why don't you give us like a quick couple tweets worth of what CU is all about?
Couple tweets worth. Oh
yes.
My gosh.
I gave you more than one.
Thank you. More than one tweet.
Yes.
Basically, they're very similar. I mean, they're very similar games. We're talking open world, PvP focused, crafting centric, very similar games there. I mean, you're going to make a character, you're going to go out, you're going to try to conquer land, you're going to obviously kill people, try to, you have buildings and keeps that you can actually destroy. Both games have the destruction. So in a lot of ways, they're very, very similar, made by obviously two different people. Camelot Unchained is from Mark Jacobs, who made Dark Age of Camelot, which some people may remember.
There's all the hype for DAOC from back in the day. And just to plug my when did DAOC end their Kickstarter? Was that 2013?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, so 2013.
Right.
Camelot Unchained?
Yeah, I did an interview with Mark Jacobs as he was ending the Kickstarter. So if you want to go in the Wayback Machine, you might be able to search that out. But I think there's two major differences between how the two different games are being developed, and we're going to start at the Kickstarter point of view. The guys here at Crowfall have been very, very open with their development. We've seen pieces here and there. We've seen the gray box stuff. We've seen a lot of essentially development notes and all that stuff as we go through. Mark Jacobs had a design doc on the Kickstarter, got his money, said thank you very much, continued to raise capital afterwards, and basically went silent until probably, I think, was it 2 months ago, where they had their first pre-alpha engine rendering that they kind of showed to the public?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been some other footage and a little bit of screenshot stuff, but yeah, I agree with you. It's totally a counterpoint of view, which at this point we don't. I mean, as as players, we love the open, right? The open, the honest, right? We give it to me. But I wonder how much development time does it waste when a developer like J. Todd Coleman has to go on and say, well, we're not going to put numbers on CC anymore. Like, how much backtracking, just, putting out fires. Is it a good thing development-wise? I don't know.
I don't know if it's really that. I really feel like Camelot Unchained just doesn't have a whole lot to offer right now because they're still building the engine. There's so many problems with it, so they can't release anything. And Crowfall has a lot of their stuff that they bought on the back end, all their engines, different stuff that people have been developing for the past 3 years. So there's a big difference. Crowfall can release stuff because it's actually coming out sooner. Camelot Unchained is pretty much getting destroyed by their own engine right now.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the engine in a little bit as we kind of have some fanboys going back and forth with all that type of stuff. Now, the other major difference, like you said, was how they're doing their development. Actually, let's first, I know it's you said that you're a backer of both games, Valor and Links. Yeah. Are you involved in both projects also?
I was.
You sold it.
I sold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. What about you, Valor?
Yeah, I have an account over there that it's one of those things that kind of just sits. And
lets it grow.
Yeah, and I just I'm just kind of waiting, and one of the things that we can kind of look back, and what I think is an interesting topic is the history of Todd and Gordon and their typical design process, and then that of Mark Jacobs and his typical design process, and we can really see that they go in a very different ways. Mark Jacobs always closed doors, tight NDA, and Todd and Gordon, what they've done is they said, you know what, this is a project that we want the community to be a part of, and so in doing so, they were really successful with their Kickstarter. Now, Ziz, do you know how what the total funding is for Camelot Unchained right now?
Total funding, yeah, they're at I think it's 3.2 million, somewhere around there. And on top of that, they had, I think, 2 million that Mark Jacobs put in at Kickstarter, and I think another $1 million before that. So,
yeah. Do you think he put that into the Kickstarter? I feel like that was a bit of a.
From what he said, it was if they met the Kickstarter, which was I think 2 million, then he would put his 2 million in too.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of different because the Crowfall folks, I mean, we talk about the differences in Kickstarter. They did theirs 2 years ago, right at the very beginning. Said if we get Kickstarter, we're making the game.
Yeah.
If not, I don't know if they were making the game or not, and he bought in then.
Yeah.
Crowfall, it's like they're doing it with or without us. They want us a part of it. That's awesome with Crowfall. I mean, and then people in chat are like, "Oh, he's a fanboy." Like, you guys forget I paid into both games. I actually have 3 times higher Kickstarter in Crowfall than Camelot Unchained.
Well, that's a good point.
I
Let's
want
go
both
around.
to do great.
Let's go around. Let's see what the fanboy level is for everybody. What's the hype factor from 1 to 10? Hype factor Crowfall, hype factor Camelot Unchained. So Lakes, start with you. You sold it. So what's your hype factor of both games?
Well, I'm kind of more invested with LOTD and Crowfall, so that's kind of where I sold it. I didn't want to play on to both games. But essentially, I paid $275 for the Camelot Unchained package, the builder booty, something like that, and I ended up selling it. But I want the game to do well. Like I really enjoy that style of game. To me, I'm putting all my eggs in the Crowfall basket.
I asked for a number.
Nah, bro. I can't give you an exact number.
Like,
from
I'm
1 to
hyped
10,
for Crowfall. Like, I give it like an 8.
1 to 10, how hyped are you? Well, I'm about a blue.
Yes.
All right. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Guy in Hawaii is just chilling over there in the top left. All right, Valor, give me some numbers.
Okay. For Camelot Unchained and everything that they've got going on, how hyped am I for their project as a whole?
Sure.
I'm at like 7.
Really? Okay.
0.5. And the reason is because conceptually it's a fantastic idea.
You like the idea.
They're trying to do some really cool stuff. For me personally, that type of environment requires such a demand on leadership team, and I've done that in the past, and that's a little bit excessive for me. So, Crowfall, it's a straight 10. I don't see a way that they can mess this up without messing it up.
There you go. Ziz, what about you?
Oh my goodness, put me on the spot. Remember, I'm here to help share both sides.
Well, I know.
Valor's higher than me. Honestly, at this point, I keep it real. That's my channel. I keep it real. I think at this moment, I don't know what the rating is. What is a 1? Like Lake selling his thing back?
I don't know. Whatever your own scale is.
Whatever
I think
I'm 3 bacons and 2 apples. No, I'd say, I don't know, a 6. I would say a 6 for Camelot Unchained.
Yep.
And 8.5 for Crowfall. It was 9 except for that video they put out.
Oh man! Why do you hate
Now I'm at
children?
8.5 for Crowfall.
You hating children over here. Me personally,
Hate 'em.
Crowfall to me is basically the only game out there that I know of that I'm excited about. So I'm hyping it on an 8 just on the ideas alone. Camelot Unchained, I've heard about what they're doing, and I'm basically at a 2 for that. And now here, this is the segue into talking about the games. Here's some major differences again by the gameplay of the games, and we can kind of talk about that. Crowfall is all action Twitch-based gaming with very limited abilities to press. We were talking about this for many shows. You press 6 different keys, 8 different keys, whatever it is. It's all Twitch-based. It's all action-based, and I like that type of gameplay. Whereas Camelot Unchained is more closer to EverQuest 2, where you have a bunch of different hotbars. I remember during the Kickstarter, Mark Jacobs says, I love hotbars. I want 2, 3, full of all different type of things you can press, whether they're clickies, whether they're lowering cooldowns, whatever they may be. I love that. And it's also tab-targeted, which personally, I've been playing so much over the last decade and a half that I'm ready to sink my teeth into something different. So those are 2 major differences, the combat styles of the 2 different games. So, Ziz, let's go to you. How do you differentiate those 2 in your mind? Do you like both styles? Is there something that you like or dislike between the 2?
Yeah, I mean, combat isn't something. I mean, if we talk about what gets me excited for Camelot Unchained, combat isn't one of them as far as like the action. Action combat is exciting. The problem is, have we had a massively multiplayer game with action combat that has been void of lag problems? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have, in a perfect world, 2015, you're going to have latency, you're going to have problems, and we know a tab target system can cope with that better. So ideally, sure, I want action combat, but not if it's going to be bad.
Well, I mean, we're assuming it's adequate at the very least. Let's give them a little bit of credit. Terra's done a very good job with their action-based combat. Guild Wars 2 is a hybrid between the 2, and they were awful, but they got a lot better as the year progressed. So I think it has a chance to being good, but we haven't seen people playing from California and East Coast yet and see how all the pings and everything else with the data centers. It might look fantastic in-house, but we don't know what it looks like. So I say we give both games a benefit of the doubt when it comes to internet reaction and internet speeds and the connections like that, right?
It's one of those things that you do now, and when the game comes out, you can't just flip a switch and say, oh, it didn't work out, let's change it. You know what I mean? Like, you're putting all your eggs kind of in that basket where you hope it works. And I think it will. I hope it will. But at least with tab targeting, we know that has less potential problems.
Well, so for sure.
So, just to clarify, so Camelot Unchained is definitely going with the tab targeting combat system.
Yeah,
all right.
Full tab target.
Yeah, and so I mean, the cool thing, the element, if you don't like tab targeting just off the bat, is they have a cool little skill system. I think we might talk about that later. But in games that have this kind of action combat system, at least in the design, I agree. Crowfall and Camelot Unchained are going to be the next generation MMOs based off of the things that they've announced and are trying to design and implement.
I wouldn't call Camelot Unchained next generation.
Their engine,
it's a repeat to me.
The skill systems that they're trying to implement, their engine, things along those lines. It's things that I'm not familiar being done on this kind of scale in an MMO of late. I mean, Ziz, you might be able to speak to it a little bit better than me.
I think Lakes wants to jump in on that one.
I was just going to say, like, the whole engine thing, like, the whole reason they're building this is they want to be able to bring that kind of combat in a fluid system, so they're building the engine to support it. So that is new in MMO.
A lot of games make their own engines.
But they're trying to do something else. They're trying to make this idea work out in a large-scale environment. So that's why they're building towards that. So that's kind of the cool thing about Camelot Unchained. But it's just, I don't know. It feels like just another game.
Well, let's talk about another major difference when it comes to it is Crowfall offers various different ways of putting people together and against each other. We've been talking about free-for-all, the dregs. It's just basically everybody go out there and kill each other. Then obviously you have faction-based, guild-based, and all the other different type of things. But I think a lot of people focus on the dregs when they hear about Crowfall at this point. And Camelot Unchained is bringing back DAOC's tried and true trademark 3-faction system. And I think that's something we should really discuss as far as what we prefer and what works and what are the pros and cons of each one. So, let's start with Ziz. You got a foot in each game.
Right.
What preference do you have, or do you like both, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to my first MMO was Dark Age of Camelot, and so that's where I really got into PvP, and I love this kind of open, massive world kind of fighting, right? And so from my perspective, I know that works, and it's worked so well. They copied it in ESO, they copied it in Guild Wars 2, so they're repeating it because the 3-sided system works. I mean, they even have it in Crowfall.
Maybe it works.
So maybe it works. Maybe it works.
It worked in DAOC. I don't see it working really in Guild Wars 2. Or I mean, did Elder Scrolls PvP actually work? Period. Anybody?
I mean, there's a lot of things. We're talking about a balance perspective, though.
I mean, I'm one of the few. I actually kind of like the Elder Scrolls PvP system for what it was.
Sure.
Yes, there were some design flaws, but you always run that risk of 2 sides ganging up and taking down one, and then, if you get that amount of collusion, you can run into some problems.
And when you look at the options that are available, though, we've seen lots of games that have 2 sides, right? You have WoW, Alliance, and Horde. You had Warhammer Online, which was 2 sides, and that never works out because even a small percentage difference is actually a huge swing, right? Mm-hmm. So you have that 2-side doesn't work. You have the 3-sided, which kind of works at least, or you have this sort of free-for-all system, right, which Crowfall is trying to do. But the problem with that was a problem J. Todd Coleman had. One guild, one group of entity takes over and just ruins the whole thing. So that's why they have the time campaigns now. So if you're going to have a permanent sort of campaign that's not going to go away and not be 2-sided, what are you left with? 3 sides.
Or 12 sides, apparently, that Crowfall
12 sides, sure.
Their faction.
So, I mean, I've seen it work really great, and I think the problem in games like Guild Wars 2 and ESO wasn't the fact that there were 3 sides. They had much other
I agree with that.
Different problems.
I mean, I think you could definitely make 3 sides work. It depends on the rule sets, depends what you do with the game. I don't think a lot of people have actually done it properly. I think Guild Wars 2 and ESO's PvP was basically too transient. You log in, you do some stuff, you log out, it all resets, and it's just kind of you kind of play it by session. At least in DAOC.
But it's recently, right?
Sure.
It's recently. So all of our examples are as of recent, but this game is based off of what happened in the past, like the old style games.
Yeah.
Right, and people love that. Like, there's a hardcore following for that kind of stuff out there. So, just what they're doing for that crowd, I mean, it's there. There's people out there who want to play it. People love Tri-Realm, and they're building, like James Goblin even said, the engine's going to be optimized to be able to handle so many people to play this style of game. Like, they're going to enjoy it, I think.
Well, that's actually the point that I was going to bring up, and I was going to ask you guys. I mean, given what we know about what they want to put into each of these games, which game is going to be able to sustain the most people in a particular scenario? So we'll say a siege. Which game is going to be the most stable as 500, 600 people all partake in a single siege? I mean,
it better be Camelot Unchained. That's the whole reason.
That's the whole point.
They're making their whole engine. If you look at the graphics, they're older-looking graphics, but that's their whole purpose, is literally having more people on screen than you've ever seen, right? I mean, that if they fail at that, they failed completely. So,
and I think that's two different type of styles of gameplay. Like you mentioned, it's like you have Camelot Unchained just wants hundreds and hundreds of people doing stuff all over the place, whereas Crowfall says that's kind of cool too. But we love the whole strategy effect of points of interest, gathering stuff, kind of people all over the place. So I don't think they're specifically going for the siege warfare. I think they're going for a mix of basically every different style.
I know their keeps are pretty huge. You do that fly-through.
Sure.
The people are very small. I mean, you could easily have hundreds. They're way bigger than ESO's keeps, and there's been hundreds of people there too. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's designed for both. Personally, I like smaller scale PvP.
Yeah.
I like the 5-on-5s, 8-on-8s. I love being able to say if you kill somebody, you made a difference in the warfare because one person out of 8 is a pretty decent size. Whereas in large-scale PvP and Zerging type of stuff, or whatever kind of organization you want to call it, it's basically you got to kill a whole bunch of people to make a dent in there. So let's go around. I mean, I know Lakes and Valor, we've all said this before. We'll start with you, Lakes. With the two different game styles, do you want to see more large-scale fighting or less in either one of these games?
I don't like 3,000 people in a Zerg ball running around, which is why I love the idea of friendly fire so much. Mm-hmm. So that's my perspective on it. Like, if you can work out large-scale PvP but have friendly fire, I think a lot of things will take care of itself. And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. I'm tired of the Zerg ball. Who has the most people? Let's tab target everyone on this target. Like, I like I hope that the action combat will live up to the expectation.
Now, Valor's eating something, so we'll go with Ziz. So,
right.
What do you think about this topic?
I mean, the awesome thing about Crowfall, right, is that you have the opportunity to do it all. You know what I mean? That's what they're building with the different campaigns, with it resetting. We have so many opportunities. With Camelot Unchained, I can just speak from my experience from Dark Age of Camelot. There were massive Zergs, but they had some heavy-handed CC. We're talking people nowadays would complain and cry and like they would hate it. We're talking one class that could mesmerize an entire raid for like 2 minutes. We're not talking 2 seconds, 2 minutes. And if you didn't have a CC break, you're just dead. Like, and are they going to go that in depth this time? No. So I agree with Lakes that I hate Zergs. But how fun is it, like, when you get at that massive keep battle, and there are more people you've ever seen in a game, and things, come on, that is a ton of fun. Like, I love that.
Well, I mean, DAOC made the what was it, the 8v8s famous?
Yeah, that was
number,
the group
right?
size.
Yeah. So what about you, Valor? I'm assuming you finished chewing.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's the ice. It's a bad habit. Whatever. My mom's a dentist. She gives me grief about it. For me, I am a fan of the large-scale combat, but I also like the tactical, and being able to see two games try and tackle this in two different ways. It's both exciting but concerning, because for me, I think the biggest weakness to Crowfall becoming what it wants to become is just the technical capabilities, such as what Ziz was talking about, was can Unity 5 voxel farm and everything
Friendly
else,
fire, physics, everything. Yep.
Can they put all of this together and have a stable game that isn't a slideshow when you get more than 20 people in the same area? That's the big concern, and honestly, that's, I'm sure, part of why they're starting off with their combat system. They say, you know what, guys, we want to make sure that this whole thing works, and we're going to check that first. We're going to get everyone together. We're going to get however many hundreds of people in their pre-alpha, and they're going to check that first, because if that doesn't work, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're going to call up Mark and be like, "Hey, Mark, so how's that engine coming along?"
Unity 5, there's some videos out there that show Unity 5 having a huge increase over Unity 4 even. Yeah. And of course, the developers, I mean, they're not stupid. They pick this engine for a reason. They're going to pick something bad, but you can miscalculate. You cannot, there's stuff that comes up. And so I agree. I'm super thankful that the first thing is testing. I mean, it's all going to come down to that, right? Like, that's what killed Guild Wars for me. That's what killed ESO for me. Yep. PvP, when it's laggy, I don't want to play the game.
Yeah, it's especially when you're trying to do a cool combo in ESO where you're switching your weapons and using different skills from different hotbars, and it takes you about 5 seconds to switch weapons, and then basically you're
yeah,
dead.
I don't know how
that's
many
what killed the
times
game
I've
for me.
cursed those developers. I've shouted them down.
Man. Well, and I posted up a post. This sounds horrible, but I posted up a post on the Crowfall forums, and I said, the important things when it comes to a PvP game is, one, you need stability. That's the first and foremost. If you don't have a stable game that can handle, everything you're trying to do, people aren't going to play it, because you can't have a competitive environment in that. Two is it needs to be, hack free. People shouldn't be able to cheat it. Break into the code, get that unfair advantage. And then the last thing was you just need to design a balance, and I say balanced, but a fair playing field where your character might not be as strong as another character in certain scenarios, but it will be in different ones. So it's you get that back and forth, and as long as you have those three cornerstones down, you've got the foundation for a solid PvP game. I mean, everything else kind of turns into fluff after that.
Well,
Couldn't agree more, Valor.
Yeah.
Normally I'm like, I have something else, but I couldn't agree more. I'm glad that they're testing. The key component of every PvP game is the combat. If that sucks, then what do you have, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could always add shit to do in the game to make it fun, hopefully, over time. But if it sucks the first off, no one's going to play it. So let's talk about another thing between Camelot Unchained and Crowfall. And, it's the big one in the room, and where I think that there's a reason why both games can have their place on the internet. And that's basically the campaign cycle versus a completely persistent game that goes on and on and on forever until, the company folds and moves on to another place. So, Ziz, what do you think is do you think that's gonna split the player base, or do you think that's just they're gonna share the same player base? How do you think that's gonna work out?
I mean, there's definitely some people out there that are fans one way or the other, right? Like they freak out. It's a MOBA or whatever they want to call Crowfall because it's time campaigns. I mean, J-Todd Coleman's reason for it is amazing. Here's this problem in Shadowbane.
Love that reason.
This is the way to fix it. And I love that. I mean, you look at like H1Z1, stuff like that. You go into a timed area, you kick butt, and then it starts over, right? You have that winner. The problem, and so I'm all on board Crowfall. I think it could be great. The problem is, if anybody's played Skyforge lately, they have a similar situation where it's very instant, it doesn't take very long, and theirs is really compartmentalized. Mm-hmm. But I'm not interested in playing that game. I started playing it, I leveled up, and I don't have that feeling of permanence. Yep. And so I hope Crowfall does good, but if I've been playing that game for 2 months and I don't feel like my character really matters, and Camelot Unchained has that because it's all permanent, that could sway a lot of people.
Oh, I definitely agree. There's definitely pitfalls in either scenario, and as everybody knows, let's keep the what ifs to a minimum here. So I mean, it's very hard to progress. Guess how each thing is going to go down. So personally, I think I could play both. I mean, I would more likely play Crowfall more only because, maybe I don't play so much right now, but I can jump in and maybe it'll reset and I can get a new start. Whereas Camelot Unchained, I might start feeling that I can't catch up. And that type of thing. Is that an issue, you think?
Let me go ahead and jump in real quick, just in case, because I know we have a couple new listeners who may not be entirely familiar with Crowfall. In that situation, is Crowfall's big design goal is instead of having just a MMO world that exists and you take castles, lose castles, and people rise to power and then just never lose that power. Crowfall's stance is they actually create a set amount of time that a campaign exists, and then they have also they'll incorporate win conditions that if somebody is dominating, you can end the campaign a little bit early if you're able to meet those win conditions. So, that is what we're talking about in terms of the big design difference with Crowfall as opposed to Camelot Unchained. Is the fact that these quote-unquote servers will launch and they will eventually end and there will be a victor. Sorry.
And then how does that make you feel, though? Whether you're the victor or the loser, you spent all this time getting that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I know for Camelot Unchained, it's going to take a long time to build keeps and build castles and all this sort of stuff. If after 3 months it went away and I got to start over, it's cool getting that first day server feel. But at the same time, it's like I just lost all that stuff I worked for. You want the best of both worlds.
But the point I think is when you're playing Crowfall, you go into it knowing that you're building up to win this game, and then once you win it, you won it, and you had a good time, and you want to start a new one. Because a lot of people love rolling alts in certain games. People play MOBAs, they play them for 30 to 40 minutes, and then they play another game. They're really going to have to balance the duration of the campaigns, I think. Because, once you start going beyond 3 months, where you can only play 4 games in a year, you might start feeling attached to your character. That goes away because you're playing too long, but you play too short and it just becomes a Guild Wars 2 type of thing where you don't really care what happens. So you have to find the right balance of time in the campaign, and I think, like Todd loves to say, oh, well, we'll test this, maybe this works, maybe that works, and obviously they can't tell how it's going. They can't design how people feel with the game, so they do actually have to test it. So I think there's room for both. It's just going to be a really tricky thing to balance, I think.
Yeah. I agree, and that's a good point.
I've been sitting here and I've been thinking about what the Crowfall and Camelot Unchained and the fact that they're two MMOs, right? They are going to go inside of the same market, but I don't think they're going to be attacking the same types of players, or it's going to be split one way or the other. People are going to want the persistence, and then people that are just wanting to play something else. They love the MMO feel and play something they haven't really played before, and that's Crowfall. I don't think that you're going to see a whole lot of people later on double dipping. They're going to try both games out and then eventually find one that they love, and there's going to be room for both games within the genre.
I agree, maybe not later on. Sorry, Val. I agree not later on, but if we look, we have 4 people on the cast, and 3 of the 4 at one time or other bought into both games. So, I mean, they definitely share. That's why I bought both. I love this kind of game. One of them's got to work. You know what I mean? They definitely overlap a lot. You know what I mean?
That's why I said you try it out, right? You're going to have people try both games out, but at the same time, like, there are people that are more diehard just based off of what they know about both games. They're going to be more leaning towards one or the other, like you said earlier, and they're not really going to be double dipping later on. There's going to be people that want to play this persistent tri-realm style of game, and then there's people that want to play something completely new that we haven't had, or a friendly fire game in a long time. So I think both can succeed, and both are going to do well within the genre, but I don't think there's going to be a huge battle. I think a lot of people are really kind of leaning towards one game or the other. I think it's really going to come down to whoever can perform and put out first.
I know people that'll play both because you have Crowfall, which doesn't require a monthly sub. It has these shorter campaigns. You can hop in. You don't have to play your character to level it up because it has the offline, skill increases. So I could definitely see it where you play Camelot Unchained with your full-time character, but hey, my buddy's on at 8 o'clock. I'm going to hop in Crowfall and play with him. So
Isn't that like one of the selling points for League of Legends, where you can just log in, play with your friends, log out, and it just is.
And Crowfall has that more than CU, I feel, definitely.
Yeah,
which makes me think you could play both.
Well,
you could, but I think that just based off of the past games, right? And Keegan said it. CU is going to get the DAC people. Crowfall's going to get the UO and SB guys. I really do feel like that's
how many of those are
crowds
out there, though? Really?
But you've got you've got the old guys, right? And then people that like those style games. So you could play both, but I really feel like there's a market for both types of players within this genre.
Oh, absolutely.
Right
I
now,
mean, there's room
out there.
There's definitely room for a good PvP MMO because there's no decent PvP MMOs out there.
There was
right
10
now.
years ago with Dark Age of Camelot and Shadowbane. I mean, it's the same thing repeating itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Same developers, same people. I agree with you, Lakes. I honestly hope one of them is really exciting for me, and I want to play it all the time. I mean, I agree with you about that, and I think most people will. But because of the differences, one having a sub, one not, one being, you could play both. I know people that say they're going to try, probably play both. So
here's a question for you then. Think to the FPS genre on PCs, and you have Battlefield, and you have the other one.
COD.
COD.
Team Fortress.
Whoa.
There's 3.
Team Fortress isn't really anything. I mean, that great game, one of my favorites, but that's so
CS:GO.
far out of. Yeah, I mean, gosh, stop, Dragon, stop. All right, COD.
There's a lot of them out there, man.
Battlefield, all right? And yes, some people are going to play each, and they're not going to play the other, but there's going to be a ton of crossover. And the big thing is that for them, they try and release kind of close to each other, or in a way that they can snag people who are tired of one. So Crowfall, Camelot Unchained, I think it's going to be a similar situation where, okay, we're PvP focused gamers. We want to get into an MMO, and we've got Crowfall over here, we've got Camelot Unchained over here. Who has the more stable? Who has the more, stable system? That's really all that I care about. Is it stable?
I'm with Gon here. I really feel like welcome to multi-box. Everyone's just going to play all the games.
All the time.
League of Legends,
I've got 2 screens.
League of Legends, Crowfall, and Camelot Unchained, and then Star Citizen as well, right? They're all going to be grouped up in one multi-box. Have a great time.
Well, let me throw up a different subject here that just kind of popped in my head. Now we have both games have their version of Tri-Realm, where Camelot Unchained has the hard factions, and it's just factions going at each other, and Ziz, maybe you could fill me in because I haven't really heard or seen anything about it. Do they have any rules for realm imbalance, population imbalance, or anything else like that they're talking about?
Right. I mean, traditionally, every game I've seen is actually pretty balanced in general, but they do have a system in place where, like, the leader of the realm is an NPC, right? The king. And depending on how you did, it's sort of like in other games where you're underpopulated, you get a buff. It's that same sort of thing, but because it's all a craft and run economy, instead of giving you a buff and you do 10% more damage, it's more, hey, we have less people, I'm going to give you some items. Here's some weapons. Here's some stuff to help you go and compete with the other realm, because you can't go out there and craft. You can't mine as well. So it helps balance it that way to keep you on.
So you get more powerful stuff to help give you a little power boost?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So instead of just a flat damage boost, here's some items, here's some stuff to help you out.
So what do you like better? Because I actually found, if it actually works, I have no idea if it actually works in live play. Crowfall has a system where they have order, chaos, balance, and as the 3 different factions. And the balance faction basically says, I want both of the teams to lose, and then I win.
That's what I'm playing.
And
You're a troll.
I think that's awesome, right?
So, you gotta be a troll. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So, assuming you get enough people where it actually works in the point system or whatever way they count for that balance, do you have a preference between 2 different systems, or are they just both cool and you want to play both of them?
Well, Valor was talking about earlier what happens when 2 sides gang up on one side, right? And that kind of happens and people hate it, and it happens and it doesn't happen. This system, though, with order, balance, chaos, forces that to happen basically at all times. Because balance looks and says, this side is a little bit stronger, I'm going to pair with these guys. And this side's a little stronger, I'm going to pair with these. So you have that thing that we kind of don't like automatically happening all the time. And I think it's great because I'm a troll, so I'm going to go troll some people. But it seems like it's going to be really difficult for chaos or order to win one of those things.
Unless the population balance is like through the roof.
Crazy skewed,
yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, because balance gets the benefit. I mean, they're sitting in the middle, having a good day.
Like, do you see yourself playing any of those systems, or you're just going straight to the dregs?
I'm going to probably live in the dregs, but who knows? It could be fun. I think the Shadows is something else that has my interest as well. It's not the dregs, but it's more guild versus guild based.
GVG, yeah.
And we still have a lot of information left to get on how they're going to handle
we don't have any
bands.
details for either one of the games. We just have design documents at this point. So let's go over more stuff that people. I don't know if Mark Jacobs has actually talked about it, but I know Todd has talked about it a lot, and that's their class balance philosophy. What we see a lot with modern MMOs, or at least the elephant in the room with Warcraft, is they balance everything, so everything is the same, everything is perfect, no one gets butthurt about stuff, and it makes everything kind of boring and milquetoast at the end. Todd has said, like, I don't give a shit if something's broken, it's probably fun, and let people play it. And, your class might be really shitty at A, B, but it's strong at C. Right. And this other class might be really strong at 2 things and weak at 1 thing. I don't really care. And go out and have fun. God bless. But what does CU do? Do we know anything about that?
I mean, that's a huge difference. I mean, specifically your question about balance. I mean, I love what Todd said about that. Like, you're going to be great at some things and bad at other things. I think the huge difference here is that you can be any race with any class. They're going to have specific classes and races for each of the 3 factions of the realms. Each race is going to have its own abilities. Each class will have different abilities. There's not mirrored across each other. I mean, so there's going to be a huge imbalance already. And I mean, I think anytime it's come up, their answer has basically been, well, we kind of figured it out in Dark Age of Camelot. We think we can do it. I mean, honestly, it's like, and that's been the answer. And so I think you kind of gain a little bit of balance. Just like J. Todd Coleman said, you gain a little bit of balance in the kind of chaos of it. But that could definitely be something that's out of whack. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what could happen there?
Well, and that's
Question for you, Zitz.
Oh, go ahead.
How many skills do they plan on having in Camelot Unchained?
Did you call me Zitz?
I'm pretty sure he called you Zitz.
Yeah,
Come on,
Zitz.
Come on, like.
Ziz.
How many skills? So that's interesting. That's one big difference. I don't know if you're going to talk about it, but the way to work is, if you've been following Crowfall a lot, they kind of talked about how their abilities are broken into like little segments, like little pieces, and they can piece them together. They talked about that for Crowfall. Camelot Unchained is like that, but to the nth degree, where they've shown some screenshots where it's like you have 40 different pieces that you can piece together. So like I want to use a ball and I want it to be made of ice and I want it to go really long distance and I want it to hit really hard. And so there's all these plus and minus trade-offs. So how many abilities? I mean, like Dragon said earlier, you're going to have bars and bars of abilities, and the possibilities are going to be in the thousands.
And that's how you can't balance a game like that, because you have 30 different abilities or endless amount of abilities, and you are going to be able to create them however you want. So in terms of balancing, at least you're going to know where your classes stand in Crowfall. I think in Camelot Unchained, it gives you so much of variety that it's almost impossible to make it balance. You can technically, theoretically, make a character or a class that's just good at everything. Is what it really seems like in the Crowfall realm of things. Could I be wrong? Or Camelot Unchained.
Yeah, in Camelot Unchained.
Camelot Unchained.
Yeah. And what I see is that when you look at these two systems, Crowfall, you have your archetype. That's what you start with, and then you can build onto that in a number of different ways. But you're still going to be specialized on whatever it was that you at least started out with.
Yeah.
And so, in Camelot Unchained,
they still have classes. They have healers. They have tanks. They have that. So your abilities are still geared towards that still.
Okay, so Camelot Unchained still has a somewhat similar system.
Yeah. So that fireball you're making, you can't make that on tank. That's in the mage, and they have an option of a cone or a ball or a dart or a meteor. Yeah.
And so,
which is cool. I like it.
I think what it is that Camelot Unchained actually, as Ziz said earlier, they just take the skill design and how much you can do with your one class to infinity, and say, you guys can go out and figure out all these different sorts of combinations, and whatever it is, no big deal. You'll have fun. And Lake's right. You can't really balance that. So the best that they can do is say, okay, well, this person's going to be really super strong in this one area. And it might actually create more, I don't know what you'd call it, but, narrowing down what someone can do. Yeah. Whereas, in Crowfall, you might actually be a little bit more versatile, considering the fact that, you can only narrow down what your character is able to do to a certain point. So
we also don't know how disciplines work, and then the promotion classes work, and how you can maybe slot things in or change things around, which I think is going to be kind of fun to kind of check out. That's a big difference. I mean, when they came out with the UI thing, there's not enough abilities on my bar, you're freaking out. I mean, some people will be like that, and one play Camelot there was too many.
We were.
I don't have enough fingers to play Camelot Unchained. That's why I can't play it. Sorry.
It's going to be...
The one video I saw, I mean, it looked like he had like 30 or 40 different skills. I mean, is that what it's going to look like?
I think so, and I think some of the abilities are going to share a cooldown. If you have a component, like let's say a shout, you can't just, that shout maybe goes on cooldown or something. But I definitely think, you're going to have multiple bars. You're going to have 30, 40 abilities.
It's going to be a clickers game.
And some of them you won't use. Like, this is my bar I use on my sieges. This is my bar I use when I'm fighting solo. So you're going to have that flexibility all built in, I think, instead of having to make the decision and living with it like in Crowfall.
Yeah, for sure. Now, there's another element of Crowfall that I've asked about and talked about, but no one's actually ever said whether or not it's actually part of the game, because we talk about the hunger, which is how all the mobs change as time goes on. But they're talking about, there's always been like this hint of that there's a survival game going on a little bit in Crowfall.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's actually true, or that we've all just made it up and the developers are giggling back there like, it's not that, but, let them think about it.
It's The Walking Dead, bro.
Yeah, they said Walking Dead.
Justin,
prove
it.
It's Eve meets Game of Thrones meets Walking Dead
meets some other pop culture
I like the idea of Crowfall, but if I had a bullshit card, it would fly out right now. Like, you show me how you make a game that is every other game out there, and I will believe you.
So, I mean, that's the one thing that interests me with the Crowfall design, as we talked about. You start a new campaign, you start naked, and you got to kind of survive and kill some people as you go along. Now, is there any differing kind of gameplay in Camelot Unchained that we don't know about, or is it just going to be strictly you go out and you just grind some stuff and gain levels? What do you expect to do?
Where do you get gear and resources?
Yeah,
I mean,
how does that work? I know we got crafters, but...
Yeah, it's very similar to Crowfall in the sense that when you start the game, you're going to be basically naked. It just doesn't have that reset mechanic. And so it's still going to have armor degradation. You're going to go out and you're going to have a mine. And if you go and you have to hold that mine to get the resources because your crafters, it's all a crafter run economy, just like Crowfall. There's no real item drops for mobs. There's no quests. It's get the items, get the ore, make your items, and then keep playing that way. Now, long term, what does that look like because you have that reset mechanic in Crowfall where someone has to start from the beginning. Are we going to get to a point in Camelot Unchained where 6 months or down the road, the guy's got so much stuff, back in his bank that it doesn't really matter? I don't know, but that's the way it's supposed to work. It's kind of like Star Wars Galaxy's feel to it, which everybody loves, and the guy who made it is working on Crowfall, so who knows?
Yeah. I mean, are you a big crafter guy? Do you like the whole crafting? I know the other two guys with me don't give a shit about crafting.
No,
the ladies sit at home crafting. I don't do this.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the answer I was looking for.
back.
So I mean, is there anything that we've missed? Let's talk about the recent.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go into
Lots.
the recent gossip breakdown, whatever the hell you want to call it, that Mark Jacobs put out there about a week or two ago because their programmer left.
Oh, the delay.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is that all about? Because I'm segueing this into who's going to beat which game is going to win to market basically in the race.
Win to market?
Yeah,
Oh,
who's going to get there first? But we'll go over what happened. Give everybody a rundown of what the hell happened.
What happened basically, and this gets me salty. So, in the Kickstarter, just to give you the whole view, Kickstarter, their projected release date was based on them hiring a few people. Took a little while. They didn't get their hires. They said they're very, very picky. On top of that, they're in Fairfax, Virginia, which isn't as easy to get people as compared to California and Texas. So it took them a while. It took so long, they said, hey, let's do a stretch goal to get some more money, to pay people more, to entice them to come up to Fairfax, Virginia. They finally found someone that was really great. I think they worked at Riot or something, this amazing developer. And they had already done a 6-month pushback before they got this guy. They got this guy. He worked for 2 days from home, and then he got some amazing offer somewhere else and said, sorry, I'm not going to work there. So now they're still looking for this amazing developer, and they've had to say we're going to postpone beta until we figure out what we're doing.
Wasn't beta supposed to be here in like a month or two?
Like now, yeah, like in a month.
And when did this go down? When did the guy quit? Get hired and quit? Recently? A month ago?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago.
Was this guy just one person going to be able to get them from where they are now to beta in 2 months? I mean, that's my major question. What's that all about? Where's
I
the bullshit card?
had a bit of a bullshit flag go up over here in Austin about that one, because they're like, oh, this guy's going to be this. He's awesome. He was talked up. He has a great reputation. He can come in and help change a lot of things. But if that was a key component of getting this game out on time, then I mean, he would have to be quite the prodigy. Because they were already clearly behind on their schedule. So
doesn't it take you at least a month just to get kind of up to speed and such?
Right.
What kind of program was it? Was he a network guy? Was he
no, he's not a network. He was like game engine guy maybe. I don't know, honestly. Yeah. I mean, he said in his announcement that they're still on target. They have plenty of money. They're not running out, so they're good to go there. They've made a bunch of other hires, some server administration guy that's really great, all this stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. That's a BS flag. This one guy stopped you from, like, come on. And it's been 2 years since Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Which that Kickstarter money was meant to pay for this dude.
Well, we know
they worked for such a long time on this prior. Like, I mean, Tyron even said it, like, they are so much farther than Crow. They've been working on the game forever now. They put so much money into it. I highly doubt this one guy is going to put them back that far. I think they're still probably going to be on track. They're still going to, they have bugs. They're going to have to work through them. But, I mean, so does every other developing company out there.
Well, I mean, Tyron said in chat that they're way ahead of them.
But do you think they're way ahead? Like,
I don't think so.
They had to make their engine.
Well, I know
that could have been a little bit of sarcasm. I'm not saying it was.
No.
Could have been.
There's no sarcasm on the internet.
I'm not saying. But, what I see is, they should still be able to have money. Because if you look at what Crowfall, their approach to the design process is they went out and they bought pre-existing system. They bought the Unity engine. They bought some of these other things that were already out there. So okay, so he's saying not sarcastic at all. I was, oh, that's too bad. Could have started up a little bit of drama.
That's not sarcasm. He's not sarcastic.
Yeah, and so Crowfall spent money on these, whereas Camelot Unchained, they're spending money on people. They're not spending as much money on systems.
I don't know about that because their team's not that large, is it? It can't be. It's probably the same size. As
similar,
Ace.
20 people. Something
That's
like
my
that.
point. Is
But he spent money developing their tools, where Ace went out and just bought the tools.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Now you said, Vala, I missed a lot of stuff. I think I've had 3 different extra questions that kind of slipped my mind. So what did I miss? What did I miss?
So one of the things that I am not familiar with in any great detail, we talked about how Crowfall has, we're calling them campaign worlds, CWs, campaign worlds. Explain the Camelot Unchained server puzzle thing.
Okay.
There's like a 2-hour video on it.
Right.
Let me
kind of talk about 2 things.
hold on a second. Let me give me 1 second, since we're about 10 minutes shy of the 1 hour mark. That anybody that wants to jump in and chat, we're gonna have room for Q&A if you want to jump in and comment on anything. GameVox, I have to go download it. It's below the stream. Gives you all the instructions. Really easy. Takes about 2 seconds to do. Make sure you get it done if you want to hop on, and we'll pull you and do the Q&A. Sorry for the interruption, but I've been meaning to do that for the last 20 minutes. So. Go ahead.
No, Valerie, you were
server
talking.
puzzle.
Those are kind of 2 things I think we're melding together.
Yeah.
The server is very similar to other games that you have seen, like World of Warcraft. There's a whole server list. You pick your server. That's where your character is. That's the world you play on. That's it. Just very vanilla, right? What you're talking about, though, with the stuff breaking apart, that's the actual map itself. So you have a zone, but instead of being solid, right, it's all broken up into little islands, and those islands can move around depending on who controls them. So you go out and you capture 5 or 10 islands, and you put these like items up, and they start to attract back to your side. So you almost build your continent, which then allows you to build buildings and all that sort of stuff, but someone else can come and take them, and then they take your continent and stuff. Which
Who
sounds
carries
amazing.
these islands? First of all,
carries?
who
Carries.
carry? How do you just pick up an island and then just put it wherever the hell you want?
You
to,
were just
man?
in Hawaii. You're in the water, dude. Like,
Magnets.
there's water that's separated.
I don't move Hawaii, man.
I know.
Oh, man.
It's water, and
do
so
you
the
work?
idea, the lore behind it is that you put down this magical item, and you have one like on each continent, and they attract each other, so it pulls them together. Because at the beginning, like the world was broken, some cataclysmic, blah blah blah, fantasy stuff. So they
like that
attract
idea.
each other, and it moves it. If somebody picked it up, that'd be crazy.
That's how I like to describe lore. Blah 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 fantasy stuff.
right.
Blah blah
See,
blah.
but
Somebody wrote it
lore
on the
has to
toilet.
explain crazy ideas like that. If not, there's no point in lore. Like, tell me how you pick up an island. Like this lore, I have a magical box. The annexation of Puerto Rico picks it up, and it puts it, and we can go ahead and shape our island. And then you could take my annexation of Puerto Rico and create your own. It's crazy, but it's interesting.
I actually
Lore.
like that idea because in Crowfall, I've been saying they need a way to shift around the map. If you're playing something where it's GVG or it's one of the 12 factions or whatever, I like the idea of being able to see what you own and what your size does, because on a day-to-day basis, we need to make our shit bigger, so let's go out and do that. That's the goal for today, rather than let's go mine some stuff, let's go find some people and run around. It gives you...
And to have that feeling that you affected the world and did
Right,
something.
absolutely. Val, what were you going to say?
I want my one if.
Okay.
All right, my one if for Crowfall is, what if when you win a campaign, you actually get to maintain access to that campaign, and you can have that map to be able to do whatever you want with, and be able to show off and go mess around with all your friends or whatever.
Kind
And
of-
you just hang out.
Kind of like in Civilization, once you beat the game, you can continue playing.
Man,
and
it's
you still
all
get a
yours.
score.
All yours.
No, it's all that lore, blah blah blah, fantasy stuff. It gets destroyed by the hunger. You can't get anything out there.
Can't win.
that
people are wanting characters to be able to control the hunger and use it as powers. I mean, come
Maybe
on.
you could take a chunk of it and put it in your EK.
No,
Man,
that's-
there you go. You know,
that breaks my immersion.
Blah, blah,
You
blah,
can't
blah,
do that.
lore.
No, it breaks my immersion.
Valerie, that was almost like you saying that we need to have the hamster dudes be the balls and the
Look, the soccer
centaurs, the soccer
The
game,
soccer
like,
game's
and
a good
everyone
idea.
was just
I
like,
will
"No,
make
this
that
is
happen.
awful."
that is going to
Does
happen.
Valor get a
No.
one what if per month or per show? Is that a new rule?
Look,
Fuck it, he's done.
I do a
Cut
better
off.
job. I do a better job than you guys on the what if. So whatever.
No.
No way.
All right. Is there any latest gossip that we should know about? I mean, we talked about Mark Jacobson, the programmer issues. Where does the game stand now?
Latest gossip. I mean, the big thing that's going to be coming
just
up
updates,
soon.
not even gossip.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is they just finished one of their stretch goals, and they haven't posted the new one yet, but everybody is thinking it's going to be stealth. They're going to have a very strange sort of stealth system we haven't seen before. They're trying to reinvent the wheel, and this is supposed to be the stretch goal that
Didn't
does
they
that.
talk about stealth like a year ago and how they planned on making it like
you
another...
pop into a new world
Yeah,
or
you
something?
pop into another realm, and there's going to be classes to be able to reveal that. Like, I thought that was already part of the game.
So
why,
they did
Why is it not... Why are they making a stretch goal for
Well,
something
you're talking
to talk
about
it?
What you're talking about is the batshit crazy days they did, and these were just a bunch of ideas they had that they wanted to try, like with the map that moves around and stuff. And these are these are all our crazy ideas we want to try to do. We don't know if we're going to do them or not. And up until this point, they've said we don't have a stealth class. We're not doing stealth. We have this idea, but he really wants it. Mark Jacobs really wants it to be different than other games, and so. But we're thinking that's what this is going to be. Is going to be stealth.
That'd be cool.
I mean, it's cool. I'm confused a little bit about separate worlds. I mean,
That was a batshit crazy thing.
Yeah, that's...
No, it makes sense. It's like, think of Lord of the Rings when he puts on the ring and then it's all...
Well, what was it? What was the other game?
So I go
bubble.
into a battle, and I have to fight 1,000 Frodos. Like, this sounds like an awful game.
Yeah,
Because you know everybody's going to be a stealth person.
Man,
As soon as you stealth, you
I wanna
lag because there's
I wanna
1,000
be the
people there.
dragon. You know, screw the stealth.
What was the recent stretch goal, Ziz, that they just hit? What was that?
it was called Realm Rewards on Steroids. Honestly, it sounds like an achievement. I don't know. Don't ask me.
Is it all just text that they're showing? It's just like, here's a design
That's the big
document?
difference. I feel like that's the big difference. Crowfall is showing us stuff with some design elements.
Sure.
And Camelot Unchained is basically been, like everything on paper, Dungeons and Dragons, this is, 3 power plus 5 power. This doesn't that sound great? It's all been on paper.
It's like a bunch of armchair developers in a forum somewhere talking about
and they're
some cool
working
shit.
on it. Yeah, they're working on it. But with this NDA that, like, you can't break, it's like...
That is a major difference. That's what I wanted to bring up, is the
That's
whole
a big
NDA
one.
thing.
NDA and Cash Shop, I think, are really the two big points
Cash
still
Shop,
left to touch on.
What was your go with the cash shop first, Valor, since that's your
Yeah, so I mean that was one of the things that I was going to ask about. People were obviously very concerned about Crowfall and the Cash Shop, and the ability to buy all this EK stuff, and can you translate VIP into pay to win? And
I hope so. I got like 6 years of it.
I know,
I'm not gonna play this game for 6 years.
right? Sapphire.
Be like 50.
I won't ever do that again. But what about Camelot Unchained? I mean, they're just doing a monthly model, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have the monthly subscription model. They haven't said how much it'll be, either $10 or $15.
Yeah.
But I think it's very old school. There's only going to be account services like I need to transfer my character to a new server. I need to that very basic stuff. Otherwise, no cash shop, nothing whatsoever in any way.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, Shroud of the Avatar is another one of the games that's out there trying
We don't need
to
talk about that.
you know what? Respect for everyone making video games and all of that. We hope everyone's successful so that the industry continues to thrive. However, that being said,
Combat system in that game.
Man, like talk about they took an old concept and kept
Made it older.
Kept it, yeah. I mean,
Oldest.
if at the very least, I mean, we're talking late '90s. Jeez. Anyway, that being said, they have made a lot of money, and they've done it through their cash shop.
Yes, they have.
I mean, we're talking. I think they might have raised as much, if not more, than both Camelot Unchained and Crowfall. And honestly, the game is not great.
He has to find some way to fund his spaceship travel. That's Richard Garriott's thing, man. He's got to get on that shuttle.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just... anyway.
We don't need to talk about Shrouds.
That's them. That's
a whole nother show comparing
yeah,
CF
right.
to Shroud.
So, so
it's not even
Unchained,
PvP, really.
Yeah, Camelot Unchained is going to stick to the, the old, monthly sub and, basic features there. Crowfall, they're going to go with a little bit more new style, cash shop, and still have the VIP access. One of the common things that has been coming up even more recently is, is VIP valuable enough? a great topic, I think, once we know more about the game. But that's something I'm seeing. The rumors, the mumbling, all of that starting to kind of come out about is VIP valuable enough, and if it's not, will the cash shop be robust enough to keep the game going? So,
speaking of the cash shop, here's
Yeah.
the major difference, hopefully, between the two games, and I think Crowfall might be a little undervalued at, is when you go to the goddamn cash shop on crowfall.com, you click on the t-shirt, you can't buy a fucking t-shirt.
look,
Seriously,
I've got a
what
t-shirt.
the fuck?
I've got a T-shirt. If anyone wants a large, slightly used, I will start a bidding at $50.
I mean, like, seriously, you
Oh,
click on a
dang.
t-shirt, I want to buy... How 12-year-olds are starting their own t-shirt companies on the internet, and we can't get a Crowfall logo t-shirt?
Dragon, you are on top form today,
What
bro.
is this?
Like, I am so proud of you because I was thinking the same thing. Like, I haven't got my hat yet. I want to buy a goddamn T-shirt and I can't buy one yet. Like, no, but
Crowns
no,
and
seriously.
crows.
All
Asking
seriously,
the tough questions.
all serious,
Always.
like straight up, the cosmetics are going to be Crowfall's big cash shop deal. Like
Yep.
people love cosmetics. That's the difference, right? You're not
hate
paying for the game,
cosmetics.
but some people love it. Congratulations, we found 4 people circled up in a podcast that may not care about cosmetics, but a vast majority of people that play MMOs want that
Do.
pretty shiny armor. They want
Sure.
these cool things, right? That's where the money's going to be, and there's a
Spend
lot
$5
of games that
on
make
that.
money off of it. Path of Exile is one of the main games. I think it's obviously not an MMO, but it does have a cash shop that just strictly sells cosmetics, and they do just fine. So
Sure. Does CU have a t-shirt, Ziz? Do you know?
They've sent out like questionnaires asking what people want, and I'm just like, I want my game. Quit asking me this stuff. Like, I don't know. I think they're making them. I think Mark Jacobs is doing that all day long. He's pressing them down.
I'm looking at their store right now.
There's not one you can buy, I don't think.
Son of a- the store. The store does work. Okay. No, it's just packages.
Yeah.
How boring.
No T-shirt for you.
Come on. Anyway, hey, did we miss anything?
I think we've more or
good.
less got it.
Yeah,
James Goblin, always appreciate his consistent contributions.
And
all
you can see
over
it
the
in
place.
chat too.
And you can, and he's talking.
I mean, you can see the chat on the stream when you watch this on
Yeah.
YouTube. You can
Yep,
see it go
it's,
down.
it's an important piece for him.
Very good.
The one thing that he said that I think is important to touch on, he says, I guess that the same with Crowfall in the bigger picture, lots of negativity, including this chat about CU, is simply based off of people not knowing stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that is a big thing, is that, over the past 5 to 10 years, we've seen so many MMOs launch with,
Good
not
stuff.
having the systems they promised, not having the stability they needed, a variety of problems.
Well,
And
I don't-
It's jaded the
Oh, sure.
community as a whole. I mean,
It's even
multiple
worse with these games though, because World of Warcraft or whatever their MMO, they're funded, and if they crash and burn, shame on me for buying into that bullshit. But they're asking for my money to make the game, so you
Yep.
better be a little bit more.
Exactly, and so when when there's all of this negativity, it is because of expectations. People expect to be let down. They expect these teams to fail and not go through with the things that it appears to be very obvious to the community. And so when I look at all of the consternation about the direction of Crowfall or the direction of Camelot Unchained, I say, look, until we know until they put something out there that we can put our hands on and we can see how it operates, we just have to wait. The best we can do is sit here and talk about design direction and say, all right, well, it doesn't seem like they're going in the right direction here. We'll have to see how it turns out. So
We'll definitely see. Ziz, you want to stick around for the after show for about 10 to 15 minutes of just
Yeah,
some
I'm here.
BS
Let's
or
do
whatever?
it.
All right, guys. We're going to cut it here. It's been about an hour. We're at basically 3 minutes after the hour mark. Actually, probably 2 since Valor was pooping and delayed us for a minute. Thanks for watching. Again, every Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern here on Twitch. Follow us at Crowns and Crows. Valor checks the emails at crownsandcrows@gmail.com. Want to thank Ziz for joining us. Ziz, why don't you plug a couple of your things, and then we'll wrap it.
Yeah, you can see most of my stuff at YouTube/Itziz, ITSZIZ. I also have a Twitch as well. I'm going to be doing a ton of stuff. I have the Sapphire package, so I know we're all excited to get into alpha as soon as possible. Yeah, and I have another show thing that we'll be starting in a few weeks, so we'll see that, hopefully doing good. Oh, and if you haven't seen it already, I have the Crowfall overview video. We're almost at 40,000 views.
Very awesome.
Yeah, it's great to show to people that don't know anything, I think, so you can check that out too on my YouTube.
All right, make sure you get all that information to Valor. We'll put it in the description here on the YouTube once we publish it. Again, guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Stick around for the after show. We'll be here in about a couple of minutes. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.